everyone. My name's Courtney James, and I'm joined today by Rigo Gutierrez. Both of us work at DePaul University, and we're here today to talk about recommendations for virtual events. This past fall, we had done a live stream and some recorded sessions just about recommendations from virtual events, from lessons we've learned and programs we've done here at DePaul. And we're here today just to share some of the things that we've learned. So before we get started, we'll introduce ourselves. My name's Courtney James. She, her, and her pronouns, and I serve as the Director for Student Involvement here at DePaul. So Rigo, you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, hello, and my name is Rigo Gutierrez. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm the coordinator for campus activities. So I work with the programming board on campus, as well as other programming initiatives.
Yeah. So for a framework for the recorded session here for today, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of how we got to where we are, and then some best practices that we've learned and implemented, and hopefully provide you all with some ideas of what you can implement back on your campus. So to get started, we just wanted to take a minute and talk a little bit about our initial pivot to a virtual environment, because a lot of what we did initially still is relevant today. So when we, way back when in March of 2020, when the pandemic began, our team had sat down and looked at different buckets of virtual programming areas. And initially what we had decided to really focus on were these 4 core areas of social media engagement, reimagined traditional student activities, series programming, and virtual gatherings of students. So what we meant by that for social media engagement, we were talking about activations that promoted engagement from students while they were at home. So things like a DePaul Pet Day, themed days, different things that we could facilitate entirely through social media. Then we also talked a lot about reimagined traditional student activities. So looking at things that we were doing on campus, but that we could pivot to this new virtual environment. So how could we do things like virtual coffee houses, open mic nights, bingos, demonstrations, and more. Then we knew that on campus, series programming was a pretty consistent staple of the DePaul student programming experience. So we wanted to be sure to pay particular attention to those weekly series that we had, looking at things like trivia, esports programming, and a couple of other things. And then finally, the 4th thing that we really looked at was virtual gatherings of students. We knew that core of the DePaul student experience, while yes, it was participating in organized activities, it was also providing resources to students so that they could organize on their own as well. So we, early on in the pandemic, like I mentioned, decided to focus on these 4 areas, and it's actually stayed pretty true to us. We've done a lot of our virtual engagement through social media, through reimagining some of these traditional activities, continuations of series programming, and then continuing to provide resources for students to gather. So even though, I think early on in March, when we were pivoting and we didn't really know what we were doing, we've still used this foundation as a framework for some of the activities that we have implemented for our students at DePaul. So for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to focus on 4 types of activities, which is a little bit different than our foundation, but 4 types of activities. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we are executing drop ships, or activities and things that are mailed directly to students, what we're doing for social media activations to keep our students engaged, how we're leveraging live streaming, and then how we continue to build real-time or community through real-time community building events. So we're going to start off with drop ships here. So Rigo, I'll turn it over to you here to talk about the first one with the pillow party.
Yeah, so one of the events that we did early on in the pandemic was having a pillow party. And so this is like in the initial days when we were trying to still have students be, excited about finishing off the year and, keeping students motivated. And so one of the things that we had done previously is we released like a whole series of something called Dibs emojis. So the Dibs emoji is basically Dibs, our campus mascot, but in the form of an emoji. And so that was such a huge hit when we released that, and a lot of people loved Dibs in an emoji version of it, that we decided to have a pillow party. And so we worked with one of our vendors to be able to, get a quote, find pricing information, and ultimately all we needed to do was send the design over to our vendor, and they also took care of shipping the pillows for us. And so every student got a pillow pack, the stuffing that they needed for it, mailed directly to them. We actually ran out of spots like within a day of when we first released the sign up sheet or the sign up form on our campus platform. All the spots filled up really fast, and so huge hit right away. And then we also invited people to join an event that happened once we knew that all the pillows were going to be shipped and students were going to have them in hand. Bringing the students together to really enjoy some time together. It was one of the first virtual opportunities that students had to socialize. And so, yeah, we brought them together, played different games and music, and just really had an environment where they could hang out and enjoy and stuff their pillow. And then along those lines, we also had a canvas painting social. And so the logistics for this event is something that we worked out also through another vendor. And so students received, much like the pillow, they were able to sign up for the canvas kit. So it included all the supplies that they needed to be able to follow along a guided painting class. And so we, much like the pillow, it went by, all the spots filled really quickly. Students were excited about it. And we had the social. And so something else that we did to accommodate for people's schedules in case they sign up for a kit, but they were not able to participate, we recorded the class so that they would be able to complete it on their own time. Although, to be frank, for that, we didn't promote that we were going to do that until after the event, just to encourage as many people as possible to join us live and still be able to have that social experience. Because that was a big thing that we were trying to accomplish as well, bringing all the students together.
Yeah, and I think so, Rigo. One of the things, and for anyone who might be listening, one of the things that we've talked about throughout the pandemic, and I think that Rigo is starting to articulate as well. A couple weeks, months into the pandemic, whatever it might be, we in student involvement also started having conversations about synchronous and asynchronous programming, because it was language that we saw our colleagues in academic affairs using, right? Classes were happening synchronously, meaning in real time, with all the same people in the same Zoom room, but there were also classes that were happening asynchronously. And we kind of, stepped back for a second and thought, okay, if our classes are doing this, why can't we do synchronous and asynchronous student engagement? Especially in the pandemic, it's more important than ever for us to meet students, not only where they are, but when they're ready for it. So and you'll hear, I think, themes and threads of this throughout, a lot of what we're doing and we're offering. Some of these drop ships, we definitely lean into that asynchronous engagement because there is still benefit, right? There's benefit even from things like mailing students a pillow. They feel connected. They have that opportunity to engage. We offer it a synchronous opportunity, but even if they didn't take us up on it, the hope is and what we're finding is it's creating that connection to DePaul while they're away. And that's what it's all about. It's about engaging and retaining them. So you'll hear us talk a little bit about synchronous and asynchronous programs. And that's really what we're leaning into with that. So, and I think one of the other things that I'd point out about this too, you'll see we've used a couple of different vendors from this, but just I think one other tip that I'd provide, we were able to work with a local vendor to do some of the shipments as well. I think as we started looking at this, we actually have a local vendor here in Chicago called Pino's Palette that does a lot of Chicago-based canvases already, and they've actually done, what is it, Rigo, 4 or 5 paintings for us at this point in the year. And like Rigo said, they go within about 24 hours for all of the signups. But they can pivot every single Chicago-based canvas to DePaul. which it's really important for us. Our identity is intertwined with the city of Chicago, so it's been great to be able to work with a local vendor. And I know vendors like that exist throughout the country, and there's some great national vendors as well providing those services. So both of those were instances where we, leverage the pillow party and the paint by numbers were instances where we leveraged external vendors to do the shipping for us. We actually have also done quite a few things where we've mailed things on our own, mailed supplies on our own, where we've put it together. And one of the first that we did to actually test it was an event that we did called Tie-Dye with OSI. Students actually can't tie-dye on campus, so this was a great event for us to send them supplies for, because it was really the only way we could do this. So we mailed all of them a white t-shirt with a white screen print, rubber bands, and a bottle of blue dye with instructions about how to tie-dye. And they got to do it whenever it was convenient for them. And then it became this social media sharing campaign as a result of it. We had a student who recorded a video that was like a how-to demo about how to tie-dye and about the process, but it was really, really well received by a lot of our students. And then another program that we started this past fall quarter, we're on quarters instead of semesters, but we are now planning to keep throughout the year, is something called Take Home Tuesdays. A lot of schools, I think, talked about like how they were going to find or how they were going to have like pick up supplies or shipped supplies to students. So we branded that campaign as Take Home Tuesday. So every single Tuesday from 1 to 5 p.m., you can either stop by the Office of Student Involvement if you're in the Chicagoland area or on campus, and you can pick up supplies. Or during that same window, you have the availability or the ability to request supplies, obviously on a basis of, as long as we still have them, it's first come, first served, for a number of different activities. And this has been wildly popular for us. But I think we've also done some pretty unique ones. One of the ones here that we have pictured here, we did a service project through a Take Home Tuesday that we had. Students could request packs of holiday cards, and it's exactly what it looks like on screen. It said Happy Holidays from DePaul University with a blank back. And then we also provided them an envelope to mail them back to us because we took all of the cards and donated them to an assisted living facility. So we, our goal was 1,000. We ended up collecting 2,900 cards. So we were really, really proud of the opportunity, and it was a great chance for students to have the opportunity to serve remotely. But we've been continuing these, like I said, throughout fall and winter quarter. Just last week we did one where we had a mailed succulent kit, so students could request supplies to build a succulent. But the pivot that we also had in fall quarter, we really were just sending a lot of stuff out. We weren't attaching the stuff that we were sending out or the activities that we were sending out to a gathering. But this quarter, our focus really has been sending out supplies and then encouraging them to attend an in-person meeting. So, or an in-person, right? An online meeting. So we did one with a succulent build last week. Rigo actually did one last night with a cross-stitch kit as well, where students could come and pick up cross-stitch supplies, and then they had a cross-stitch social. But we're seeing a lot of interest. I'm on our DePaul social media account, and I'm always surprised by just how many students follow up with us to make sure that they have the link for the Take Home Tuesday follow-up event.
Yeah. So this is another recent example. So Blue Demon Box, we actually released a Valentine's version of it today, and they all, the forum was full within a minute, and we had over 100 kids. Yeah, so pretty amazing. But this is one that we've actually done. I think that this is the third time that we do it. So we did a couple in the fall. We did like a back to school edition of it. We did like a winter version of it, or like a fall season version of it. And now like it's just picked up a lot of steam, and people get really excited when we release this. But we find ways to incorporate items that are kind of like de-stress items or themed items, like promo materials and things like that, activities for students to do. So we've included things like crafts and coffee mugs and Think of it like a care package. So like a care package that somebody would send you, similar concept as a care package. And so some of the times that we've done this, we've also included a synchronous event to tie along with the box. We haven't done it every time, but if it makes sense for the activity that's included for that specific box, then we've done a synchronous component as well.
Yeah, so those are just a couple of examples of our drop ships. You can also go on our social media if you want to check out some of the other ones we do. We have multiple every single week. But if you see any that you're curious on getting more information about, we're always happy to talk a little bit more about that. But pivoting gears a little bit, we also wanted to talk a little bit about how we're leveraging social media through different activations to engage our students virtually as well. So one of the things that we did very early on was a virtual GNOME hunt on camp when we are in a more traditional environment. The GNOME hunt is one of our most popular events. We annually hide about 125 gnomes that are decorated by different student organizations all over campus for people to win prizes. Well, when the pandemic hit, we were like, honestly, we threw it out as a joke initially, like, why don't we do a virtual GNOME hunt? And then people were like, wait, why don't we? So we started doing it, and you'll see this picture here. And if you look closely, it might seem like any other normal picture of just an on-campus event. But I'll make it a little bit bigger here for you for a second. But if you start to look a little bit closer, you'll notice that there's actually gnomes hidden throughout the picture. So there's one on the with a red hat on the red building in the background. There's some blue ones in the middle. I don't know if you see any more, Rigo. There's some it looks like by the buckets with the bubbles at the bottom. Like they're all over, right? So it's basically like a Where's Waldo style of engagement. So students will see the images and then they'll message us their guests, and we would have the selection process that way. But we're continuing the GNOME hunt in a virtual manner this year. I know we're doing this part. Rigo, do you remember some of the other elements of the GNOME hunt?
They were able to color like the PDF file that for the GNOME and give it a backstory, kind of like we were talking about. But outside of that, I think that those were like the two big components.
Yeah. And then heading into this year, we're actually also working, we have like a avatar-based environment that we have access to that some students at DePaul helped to build. So we're going to be doing an online digital GNOME hunt with that as well. So it'll be more of like a real-time community building experience that our students will be able to go in, and videos will pop up of the other people in there as well. So it should be, I think, a really good time for our students, and it's been really successful for us so far. And then, knowing that we're filming this in the winter time and that leadership awards are coming up, one of the things I wanted to be sure to check out or to touch base on was how we did our leadership awards. So when we last year, when we were getting ready for our leadership awards, initially we had actually planned to do an hour and a half Zoom session that people had to be invited to, and that they were going to have to watch in real time to find out the winners. And I was talking to one of my assistant directors, Natalie, and we just kind of had this realization of like, our students they didn't really want to do that, right? Like they didn't necessarily want to sit on the edge of their seat to find out if they were going to win or not. So what we decided to do instead, we produced a number, I think it was around 16 videos for every single award. And instead of one day for an hour and a half, we released the videos over a week. We actually ended up having over 13,000 views of the 16 videos. And the cool part about it was like, instead of, like in a meeting or in a in-person interaction, people would be clapping and shouting and cheering when their peers won. What they were doing instead was they were just tagging each other, right? Like they were making sure that the student immediately knew that they won, and they were celebrating them on social media. And it was just a really cool way to see it. And I think even now it's been great because to this day, we're still having new people who are finding these videos and helping us celebrate those students that were recognized this past May. So it was a really effective way for us to pivot that program.
Yeah. So the next one that we have up here is the pet contest. And so who doesn't love to see other people's pets on Zoom during the pandemic? So taking a page out of all the different contests that we've seen, we decided to make one focus specifically on pets. And we actually had over 100 submissions to it. And so the way that it worked is we had a sign up form. And they could either attach the file on there or send it to us through Instagram. Or people got really creative in how they delivered the photos to us. But pets included everything from like lizards to cats, dogs, of course, fish. And it's just been really fun to see people, put like a DePaul hat on their pet or find other ways to, get their pets to show a little bit of Blue Demon spirit. And so this week we'll actually be releasing all the photos, depending on who, the different categories that we've established, who is being selected. And so it's we're using a lot of the Instagram story feature specifically to have other students vote on which pets should win each bracket.
I'm voting for the puppies.
There's like the the most spirited category and and all of that. And one of the things that we'll also be doing with all of the submissions is create a video, so compile everything, and have it be like a running slideshow and find a cool way to show that off to our students on social media. And so it's been really exciting to see all the creativity and just how cute all the pets are.
Yeah, sorry about my excited comment in the middle of it, but I am a voting member of this right now, and I am voting for all the puppies because the puppies are so freaking cute.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see like the compilation of all the videos. It'll be a good one.
I'm gonna be really sad if the puppies lose to the there's like a lizard or like a some sort of like I will be very sad if the puppies lose to that because the puppies are very very cute.
Hey, don't knock on the lizards.
I know the lizards. I mean, there's like guinea pigs, rabbits. Yeah. I mean, it's like everything. Like it's just been really cool to see how excited students get about it.
Yeah.
So one of the other areas,
it's surprising also. Like you don't expect like how creative people will get.
Yes.
So, like some of the submissions are like really wow. Like I would have never thought of doing that if I had a dog.
Yeah. So. Somebody brought their fish to Wrigley Field, which, Wrigley Field's home of the Chicago Cubs. For those of you that don't know, and everybody there's a ton that the students put like a DePaul hat on the cat. Which I'm not a huge cat fan, but it does make cats cuter when they're wearing a DePaul hat. Yeah. But it's just been really fun to see all of it.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So one of the other areas that we have really spent a lot of time developing our programs is through streaming. Again, it goes back to that synchronous versus asynchronous delivery. So this is just real. This is something that early on we learned about and conceptualized, and I feel like it's something that we've really grown in and adapted to. We're actually using a live stream platform right now to record this session, which is, as you can tell, it's just a little bit more visually appealing than a normal Zoom session.
Wait, I thought that was just because of us. I thought it was more visually appealing because of us.
Obviously.
In addition to that, it's also the platform.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But students just get tired of I think seeing the black Zoom background every single time. And one of the things I talk with our students about is when you're on campus and you're in an academic building and you walk to a student center or the student union, your brain changes, right? You get out of the I'm in an academic space and you enter into the I'm in the fun space right now, right? And when we're doing everything from our room or everything from the same spot, your brain can't change like that. It's just harder. You've got to give it some cues. And I think one of the benefits of this is you can use the backgrounds and the overlays and all of these different things to have them change mentally about their mindset. So it doesn't look like Zoom, right? And I can change the layout here. We can look, a whole ton of different ways in this. You can change the colors. We've got all sorts of different backgrounds for all of this. But it gives you that opportunity to change some of those cues. I'm not going to dive too far into an explanation of exactly what we're doing, but here I am there and here now, right? I actually have also recorded another session called Utilizing Streaming for Student Engagement. And you can find it on YouTube. Literally, if you search for Utilizing Streaming for Student Engagement, it's about a half-hour session that I really do a deep dive into some of the programs that we do. I talk about the platform that we use, all of those different things. So that resource is available to you. But Rigo, I'll turn it over to you to talk about the campfire, which I just love.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Campfire is actually another series that was first developed in the spring quarter of 2020. So whenever all of this was new to us, the virtual programming, and so our students really wanted to capture like cozy vibes, going outside and camping, and they had an event planned originally on campus for. They had an event that was themed around a campfire, and so they wanted to have like a similar concept and make it happen virtually, and so for the very first installment of the Campfire series, we had a musical performance by a student artist. So a student who we knew through one of our old events. They actually won. Well, they were the Battle of the Bands winning band actually. And so they were like the performance for the night, but other elements that were incorporated into it were, for example, like the a scary story contest. So students actually were able to submit a scary story a week or 2 weeks leading up to the event. So it was like in written format, but then they were able to, if you were selected or if you wanted to compete live, you could come on to the live stream and read your story. So we had students do that. And we selected a winner on social media. So like students were able to pick whoever they wanted to see winning that competition. So it was really cool because it became like a variety show that was campfire themed, and it featured like the storytelling and the performance aspect of it. And I don't know. I think that they did a really great job of really capturing like those cozy, that cozy environment, like those really I guess warm vibes and comforting vibes that were really needed at the time. And so over the fall, we continued to offer it in different formats. So like obviously we're not going to have a scary story contest every time because eventually people are going to start running out of stories to submit. But we've had poets come on. We've had more musical performances. So we just kind of like switch up the format in terms of like what type of performance and what type of artist or contest or like student interactive component is tied into that. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the hats that I wear as part of my job is I have the opportunity to work with our esports program. And this was actually one of the first things that we started. Like we developed the series really to test streaming as a concept, and just to see how it worked, because honestly, we just weren't really sure. But we did something called Esports Career Chats, which ended up being a 9-week series where one of our students, Alex, who he's the small box pictured there, interviewed different industry leaders to talk about esports and to connect with them and to just learn more about it. And I think, again, in that spirit of like synchronous versus asynchronous content, what we found was in real time, we ended up with about anywhere on a slow day, 10 to on a busier day, like 35, 40 people who would watch in real time. But then when we left the video up on, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, all of our different platforms, we'd get another 200 viewers over the course of the week. And the campfire was actually one of the first places that we really saw that like phenomenon of like asynchronous viewership like really pop up. Like it wasn't, we had a few students who watched it early on, but then, especially for, I think, those stories, people started tagging and sharing, and students were watching it at a time that was more convenient for them. So it's just been a great way for us to continue to expand. We've also used streaming as a way to get to help teach students about DePaul and about some of the resources. During our fall welcome and our winter welcome weeks, I hosted a series called Get to Know DePaul, where we did just that. We got to know DePaul for new students, and students could listen for departments and offices all over the university. During the fall, we did it twice a day. Just like you have a favorite television show that happens at the same time every week perhaps. We set a schedule and we committed to it. We were doing it every day. At the same time in the same places so that people could come back and continue to learn. And we always got a lot of really great questions from students and really just connected them with different resources. And it turned into this great library for people to have a place where they could go and learn about things if they didn't yet know about them, especially knowing that for us, orientation was all virtual. So we creating this opportunity to do that deep dive, I think was really helpful for the DePaul community. Then one of the other things we did, and here's a little bit, it looks like Rigo, you're like wearing the same shirt and everything too.
I might be, yeah.
Yeah. Am I? Oh no, I've got a different blue shirt on. Yeah. But one of the things that I just love that we invested some time into developing was called the Virtual Engagement for Student Org series. And, Rigo and my faces look serious about it in this video here, but
you picked such a great screen grab.
I know. I was doing it quick.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have picked a different one, but this was really cool because what we did was we used our streaming platform, and we had 4 universities commit to participating, and we had 6 topics for 6 different weeks. And what we said was, okay, our 4 universities are going to come together. We may not all be content experts for every single one of these, but let's commit to all participating in at least some of these streams, and then we'll put them back out into all of our communities. So it was DePaul, University of Central Oklahoma, Maryville University, and Simpson College, all committed to participating. And we had some other guests at some of the sessions for content area experts for some of them. But whether those professionals were on the call or not, we streamed them back to all of the schools each week. And I just think it was a really great way for us to expand our information and to put other industry leaders in front of our students, because they get used to hearing from us, right? But in this one, we were talking about actually ideas for virtual events as well. But they got to hear about ideas from UCO and Simpson for DePaul students. And then UCO students got to hear about what's going on at DePaul and Simpson, and it just was this really, really great way for us to connect and expand opportunities for our students. So I share it as a concept. I just think it was a really cool way. And if you have colleagues around the country, I think it's a really great opportunity to expand some learning for them.
Yeah, so Wake Up with OSI. So not to be confused with Get to Know DePaul, which dives into each different area or department, sort of like a deep dive. This is more so something that we've started to do on Mondays. That is essentially getting students ready for the week. So we go over events that we have, maybe some exciting news that may have happened the previous week, just important updates and fun things to share with our students that kind of gets them in the mindset for participating in events that week. And it's just a really fun time to also answer questions because it happens live. On Instagram, it happens live at least.
It's live on Facebook too.
Okay, so it's live on Facebook as well. Mm-hmm. So it's a good time for students to be able to interact or plug if there's a student in a student organization that has an activity or a meeting coming up. They can comment and we'll read the comment out loud just to keep everybody informed on what's happening on campus in a more personal way. That's not just another newsletter or something in writing, but more so a lively, fun. You get to see people's faces kind of way. So.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that I would add about it that we actually just started doing this week, this streaming platform that we use has the ability to go out to 10 locations. So we actually now live stream to, I think, 8 different locations. We have class of Facebook groups, and then we have a Parents at DePaul group as well. And then obviously our student involvement Facebook page, YouTube channel, all sorts of different things. And through our one platform, instead of in a Zoom, when you record and live stream through a Zoom, you are only able to go to 1 or 2 places. You can either go to YouTube or you can go to Facebook, versus with our platform, we can send it to all of these different places. So our our connection and connection to the DePaul community has just increased exponentially. And it's just been really cool to see the response for it. Again, it's that opportunity to hear it live if you want to, but you can also watch it at a later time if it's more convenient for you.
Yeah. So Chalk Festival. So this is another one of my really, well, obviously all of these are going to be our favorites because we picked the ones that went really successfully and they were really fun to coordinate, but this one's really good as well. So we brought this event back from the previous year. So back in 2019, we had an on-campus Chalk Festival. And so student artists came onto the quad. We assigned different pieces of sidewalk to them. And they created their art. And so this year we decided to do it virtually. So we had student artists that actually went to campus, even though most of our students are off campus. We were able to find people that were local, and they created art on our quad. We had some submissions or some students that were streaming from back home. So they on their driveway or just found a piece of pavement to chalk that created some artwork. And so what we did throughout the day was have check-ins to give people like progress as like the artwork was being created. And we actually like let the students that were chalking, we let them talk and participate in live stream and kind of tell us a little bit about what they were doing. So as you can see, one of the examples here is we had a Black Lives Matter art that was submitted. And so, yeah, it was really fun. We worked with a professional chalk artist to end the day. So somebody who was able to create our campus mascot, really elaborate and really beautiful, basically. And it was a great way to like end the evening, but it was a day-long event. It actually happened the same day as our student involvement fair, so that was really nice. A really nice tie-in, making people feel like they're seeing the campus and having that like on-campus feel as well.
Yeah, and then one of the other series that we launched this past year was a self-care series, and our Student Government Association is currently leading it, but they're doing a number of different panel discussions where they come together and they bring people around the university to talk about self-care during different times. So they had a self-care for political stress and anxiety. They did a self-care around the holidays. They are doing like a self-care to avoid the winter blues, like different things like that. And to be honest, the response to these has been quite surprising. Like when we did the self-care for political stress and anxiety, we had over 50 students who RSVP'd for the event, and a ton more that showed up. But I think the other part that's important about this is like, yes, we're doing these events for other students, but it's also been really great to give our students a directed way to stay engaged, because they're facilitating these, they're creating these events. We provided a lot of the production back of house support, but really it's quite simple. Like you click a couple buttons and they go live and they kind of do their thing. But it's been a really great series for us. So our fourth bucket and category that we wanted to talk about here are real-time community building events. You know, I think like the streaming has been great. Our drop ships have been very well received. I feel like we're nailing on all pistons when it comes to our social media right now, but we're still also focusing on developing real-time community building events. So one of the things that we did, and I just thought this was a really unique delivery model that I wanted to share. Again, because I supervise our esports community, we wanted to have a community meeting. We have over 1,300 students in our community, and we have 150 students about on our competitive teams. And we wanted to do a community meeting, but we knew like there wasn't probably a high likelihood that we were going to get them all in a Zoom room. So what we did instead was the 3 students who are pictured here and myself gathered in our streaming platform and live streamed to the event, but we told everyone we want you to be there in the chat to discuss. And we interacted with them on screen, and we gave them prompts to talk about. But it was just a really spectacular way, I think, to build community in a different way that, wasn't, please come into our Zoom room. It gave people across all platforms, whether they were watching on Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube, gave them the opportunity to connect and hear about what's going on with the program, but also to interact with one another. So I think it was just a really unique delivery method for us. Then, sorry, I forgot for a second that I was supposed to talk about this one.
Yeah.
So one of the other traditions and the cultivation of traditions at DePaul, prior to this year, we worked really hard to get our students excited about traditions, and we were very nervous in a virtual environment that they were going to start to potentially, fade or lose a little bit of interest. So we worked really hard to pivot our program, like some of our traditions, to a virtual environment, and one of them being midnight breakfast. So probably like another 2,000 campuses in the United States, we hosted a midnight breakfast in our student center where we would typically serve, around 2,000 of our students. Well, we decided to try and do it virtually, and there were a couple different parts to it. First, we mailed a kit to every single student that included some DePaul utensils and some breakfast-themed snacks, along with some I think crosswords and word searches for them to play and just to de-stress a little bit, because that when we're on campus, that's the whole reason why we do midnight breakfast. So we mailed those kits, but then we also brought Dan cakes to campus, which is the picture in the bottom. What's that bottom left corner, where students could request artwork to be made. And honestly, I think this is the part of it that was the biggest surprise to me, just how many students tuned in to watch the videos. There was we averaged 60 to 70 students watching at any given time, and they were requesting new things to be made as we went. So it was just really, really, I think, cool and unique. There were a lot of Baby Yoda requests, but they made every single one of them for our students. And it was a fun stream. The Dan Cakes was spectacular. They engaged with the students in the chat. And I think it was just very cathartic for our students during a stressful time. And then our DePaul Activities Board also hosted a comedian, Morgan J., who did a comedy show. And if you've never seen Morgan J. perform before, he has this ability to bring in whatever is going on in the comments as well. So again, it was that interactive piece, and students were really excited, and I think it was important for us to continue these traditions in a virtual environment. Then one of the other things that we've been doing to continue with community building is some esports affiliated events. We branded a series to be called the DePaul Gaming League. And throughout fall quarter, we did a different title every single week, and had different gaming events. It ranged, early on, it was things like Rocket League, League of Legends, Overwatch, Valorant, all of those titles. But then Among Us came out. And if you haven't heard of Among Us yet, I encourage you to download the free app. It's really, really fun. Our team plays it as well. But the great part about it is it's a game that pretty much anyone can play. And as long as you have a smartphone or a computer, you can join in for a match. And this has been something that has been wildly popular for us. On a slow day, our Among Us events average somewhere in the realm of 25 to 40 students. But we've figured out how to break up students into rooms so that they can discuss and gather and de-stress and have a good time. But it's been part of our DePaul co-curricular experience in this virtual world, and our students are really enjoying it.
All right, so this one's pretty simple in concept. So it's basically just a trivia night, and we've actually really developed this into a signature series. And so it's something that our students expect. And so we've gone back and forth between having it be weekly or bi-weekly. Right now we're doing a bi-weekly model. But we have noticed that students really enjoy the ones that are themed. So trivia that has a particular topic. And so we've had like Parks and Recreation, The Office. This one's Marvel, the example that's being shown here. But it's become our bread and butter. Pretty simple execution. We worked with college trivia nerds to get our trivia. And so it's something that we just do over Kahoot. The student who's hosting the event shares their screen, and students can join from their phone. And it's just something that's consistent, reliable, and people enjoy and come back for every week. And then Drag Bingo. So there's a website that we use to generate our virtual bingo cards. And so to give it more flavor, more spice, we decided to have it be drag bingo, because who doesn't love a good drag queen? Come on, let's be real. So there's a local drag queen that we had already worked with when we were still having on-campus programming. And so we talked to her, and it turns out that she had been doing a series of hosting drag bingo virtually. And so she did a fantastic job of being very performative, of being like the bingo caller, and really keeping the game and the conversation going. And it's actually, I know I've said this for like every event, but that was like a really amazing night for a lot of our students, and one where I saw a lot of cameras on Zoom. So a lot of people, they weren't just like hiding behind. Not that people are hiding. People have different reasons for not sharing their video, but one where you actually saw people's faces. So that was pretty neat to see.
Yeah. Well, and I also have to shout out. So as an aside, all of the graphics that you've seen for virtually all of this are all created by our student graphic designers. And this one actually just won Best in Show at ACUI's regional conference. So we're really proud of our student graphic design team.
Yeah, so Can You Escape is an escape room. And so we had a couple of them throughout the fall quarter. The one that was the biggest hit by far was the holiday themed escape room. So it was Deck the Halls, Can You Escape? And pretty, in the grand scheme of things, pretty simple to coordinate because we worked with a vendor, but something that our students enjoyed. You can decide like what capacity you want for your event, because you can even arrange it to have like multiple rooms happening at the same time, or you can just have one room. But yeah, it's something that was greatly, a great execution, and something that students understand the concept of what it is, but it takes life more in a virtual setting. And then speed friending. So we wanted just like a good old like game night for our students, something where people could come together and enjoy just like simple games. And so for this event, it was one of our after dark events. So later at night, but students were, whenever they joined the Zoom room, there was like a main room, and they could decide which activity they wanted to participate in. And so we had Scribble, which is kind of like an online Pictionary portal that we use. We had Among Us, which we already talked about a little bit earlier, as well as like a couple other games that I wish I could remember off the top of my head. But basically, what really is important here is the format of it is like having like that main like lobby in your Zoom link, and then kind of letting people decide what activity they want to participate in.
Yeah, and then another thing that we did as a real-time community building event was a calligraphy workshop. So this was something we did, I think, mid-fall quarter. But I think that there's been a lot of talk in the pandemic about learning new skills, or about refining skills that you perhaps had let fall by the wayside. And our calligraphy workshop was really, really well received by our student attendees. Similarly, like we had a kit that they could request, and I think everything was gone for this in about 80 minutes. Like it was just really fast. Like there was a lot of interest in it. So all of our real-time community building events, if we didn't say this, the biggest difference between this and a live stream is these are the things that we do have in a Zoom room. Right? Like they're the things that people know, like we're going to do this here because you're going to interact with other people. And we want to, we don't want to broadcast them to the world unless they're ready to do that. But these are some of the most successful things that we've done in some of our Zoom rooms that just wanted to share, and that might be unique that haven't been on your docket yet. As we head towards the tail end of this presentation, just wanted to share a couple other ideas and, things that we have done and a little bit about some of our statistics. One of the things that we started implementing that I would highly, highly recommend if you have the ability to do it is a QR code check-in. Again, via that streaming platform that we use, StreamYard, we're able to upload overlays that include a QR code, which I don't know if I don't have any currently in this. Otherwise, I'd put one up right now. I think I've deleted all of them to clear out the queue. But we have started implementing QR code check-ins where students can scan that QR code to check into the event so that we can have it for tracking purposes. Typically, we incentivize it. We'll give away a DePaul cup or a hat or a T-shirt or, something that we have, excuse me, or that we've have laying around the office. But it does help us, just to check and collect who is there and have information. A lot of our events, particularly our streams that don't include hiring external talent, have a lower cost per event. So it's worth, the $10 to $50 potentially that we have to pay for a prize or to pay the shipping fees associated with a check-in. Because again, that data has been very helpful for us to know who is attending all of our programs. One of the other things that we did, it was called Holidays at DePaul Week, and it was a week-long celebration of the holiday season. DePaul has some marquee experiences when we're on campus that center around the holidays, and we knew that was going to be something that people were missing. But even more than that, we actually specifically designed Holidays at DePaul Week as our intervention when students were gone. So we knew that we as staff professionals, we needed a little bit of a break, and we didn't want to have to play it. We have a very long winter break. Our students leave before Thanksgiving and they don't come back until January 1st. So we knew that we needed to engage them somehow. So we said, instead of doing, something every week for the 6 weeks they're gone, we're going to put all of our eggs in one basket with Holidays at DePaul Week. So it saved us a little bit of stress and created space for us to have some rest and respite, while also intentionally saying this is what we're doing and focusing all of our energy and efforts on one thing and building excitement there. And it was really, really successful when you look at it. We had almost 2,000 unique students participate in the week. We had over 200 faculty and staff. All of the things that we streamed had over 2,800 views. All sorts of positive things came from the week. But I just share this because I think it was a really unique intervention that helped us to continue to engage our students over a break. But one of the other things that we did during it that I just want to highlight specifically was our tree lighting ceremony. And this was unique in the sense that this was actually the first time that we ever did a premiere video as a virtual event. So we had talked about potentially doing an event as a live stream, but we got feedback from other folks around the university, and what they suggested to us instead was, instead of having a live stream that has the ums and blips and ahs and has some tech glitches, they suggested to us that we produce a really high quality video and that we do a premiere at a specific time. And it was wonderfully received. We had around 500 people who watched the premiere video. And in the week after, we had another 2,000 people who watched the video and got to experience the tradition. So it was, I think I can't say enough things, especially if you have a production team that can make a really high quality video like this to showcase your campus. One of the things my supervisor said was that this video was DePaul at its best. And it was just, I think, a really great experience. We also had the opportunity to incentivize check-in for this event for our students. If they checked in, they had the opportunity to receive a DePaul winter beanie that we mailed to all of them. So it was a great way to collect that data so that we could tell a story about how many students were participating in the activity. Then one of the other things I wanted to share that I think has been very, very helpful for us, early on, we created something called the DEN, which is the Digital Engagement Network. So since we created this back in March, this was one of our ideas early on in the pandemic, we've been able to promote over 1,500 virtual events because this is that centralized one-stop shop that all offices feed their information into the DEN. We use Campus Groups as our content management system, and if anyone's watching and wants to learn more about it, we'd be happy to provide details about it. But initially, we had an opt-in procedure for it where students would have to tell us that they wanted to be part of it. But we were receiving such positive feedback from those students that the university actually decided to automatically populate all of our students into it. So all students now receive weekly email blasts and have access to that portal through our Campus Groups system, which is custom branded to be called D-Hub here at DePaul. But it's been really great for a lot of reasons. The system automatically syncs with other university networks like calendars, the daily emails, all of those different things. But it's also been helpful for us to have a centralized location for all streaming events. So we now, instead of we do tell our students, like, if you want to watch this, go to our Facebook or go to YouTube or go here. But we also just direct them to go to the DEN. And, the website is just go.depaul.edu/den. And any given week, you can go there and see all of our live streams. We put them there to make it easy for students to find all of that information. So it's been really, really helpful for us as a centralized location. Then I just wanted to share a little bit about our fall quarter metrics by the numbers. I am really blown away with our team. Rigo is one of our coordinators. We have a spectacular group of, coordinators, assistant directors, and students that are really helping this to all come to fruition. But given that we're in a remote environment, I think that we've done some really extraordinary things and have got some great metrics. I think most significantly, these are all of our numbers, and I won't walk through all of them. But in a virtual environment, we were able to interact with 21% of all undergraduate students at DePaul University in fall quarter alone. That doesn't include our holidays at DePaul week. If you give me a second, I can actually tell you, I think, because I just got the numbers. If you include holidays at DePaul week, we're at 31% now because our statistics went up. We had that much engagement with that specific intervention. But when we're on campus, we try and reach as many students as we can. But our drop ships, our streaming, our real-time community building events, our social media is creating this opportunity for us to cast a really, really wide net. And we're really proud of that, and it hasn't been easy. We've had a lot of things that we've had to learn. But I think it's been worth it for us.
Huh? It's not been easy.
No, it hasn't.
I'll tell you that much.
No, and
no.
I mean, Rico, more than anyone, can probably tell you how many times I message in a group and I'm like, I need somebody to hop on a call so I can test this tech feature. Like, it happens all the time. And like, it took an investment, like we made sure that all of our staff had the right equipment, like the right cameras, the right headphones, the right microphones. All of that makes a difference with virtual events. And if you haven't made that investment yet, I would really encourage you to do so. But moving forward, we plan to continue to lean on some of those principles that we have, and to continue to provide additional resources to facilitate connections between our orgs, student leaders, and DePaul students. One of the other things that I would just share that we did that was really helpful, early on, we knew what we were going to need, and we created something called the Social Distance Showcase, and we asked a number of NACA vendors to come and present to us, so that we could use that information to help guide us. The emails are helpful, the discussions in some of the Facebook groups are helpful, but sometimes it can be overwhelming. But what we did was we sent to all of those vendors here's what we're looking for. Here's what you need to know about our community. Can you customize a presentation to us? And those vendors were really happy to oblige. And I think that was really helpful for us to continue to build those relationships because we couldn't have done any of this without them. And that was really helpful early on in the process. But Rigo, as I put our contact information here. Feel free to reach out to either of us if you have any questions. But Rigo, any final thoughts or closing things you want to say?
I mean, I'm gonna say find whatever works for your campus, obviously, but I think with that is gonna come trying things and having to adjust and try them in a different way or try something new. And so, yes, like we're giving you the best of what we've accomplished, but that doesn't mean that, as Courtney was kind of alluding to, there's obviously like those like struggle events and things that that we've said, oh well, we're not gonna do that again. And so obviously they don't make it to the presentation, otherwise it would be a bunch of information that you don't need. But yeah, so don't be discouraged. Like you'll try things that don't work, but then you'll try a lot of things that do work. And so make sure that you take each opportunity as a reflective experience.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's speaking to that, that's one of the things that's really important about like this virtual environment is like, we found our wheelhouse and we're leaning into it. You know, like I think sometimes when we're in person, we're like, let's try something different or like, let's change it up. And like, the thing that I keep saying is like, we just have to get through the pandemic. Like we just have to get through the pandemic and we want to create those connections and that experience and like lean into what's working, you know, like all of these things may not work for you, but maybe one works really well and like lean into that and figure out how can you enhance that one area. Like our drop ships started as that we were just mailing students, you know, like leftover things we had around DePaul, and they've now evolved into this experience where students can gather in person and like lean into that, like figure out how you can adapt to what works for you for your specific university or college.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, great. Well, Rigo, you know, thanks for joining me today to do this session. And again, for our viewers, if you have any questions or if you have any, you know, thoughts or anything else, feel free to send them our way. We're always happy to chat further. But we hope you all stay safe and stay well. But we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.